Okay, good evening, everybody. The June 25th, 2026 meeting of the Solana Beach City Council is called to order. Let the record show that all council members are present. City Attorney, are there any items to report from closed session?
No, nothing is reportable from closed session.
Very good. Next item is our flag salute. Please stand and join me. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next on our agenda is a proclamation. We are very pleased to have with us Shauna Anderson, the Executive Director of San Diego River Valley JPA for how many years? 26, and then, yes. Well, we're sorry to see that you're going to be retiring, but we're glad to hear that you're going to be retiring also and enjoying that lifestyle. So the proclamation today will be presented by your board member, Deputy Mayor McDonald. And so I will turn it over to her yeah, it's a beautifully framed proclamation. And if you would please read the proclamation for Shauna.
I would be delighted to. I'm the chair of the San Diego River Valley JPA, and it's been a great pleasure to have been able to work with Shauna the last few years. And so it's happy, sad, sad, happy. I know she's going on to better things, but the organization and I personally am going to miss her. In honor and recognition of Executive Director Shauna Anderson for her 26 years of dedicated service to the San Diego River Park Joint Powers Authority. Whereas, for the past 26 years, you're too young, Shauna Anderson has dedicated her career to acquiring, protecting, and preserving the open space corridor known as the San Diego River Valley Park. And whereas Shauna began her service in 2000 as an environmental planner with the Joint Powers Authority and has served as the executive director of the San Diego River Park JPA since 2020, and whereas during her tenure, she oversaw the restoration of the San Diego Lagoon, helped build and connect multiple segments of the Coast to Crest Trail, and contributed to significant projects including the Coastal Ranger Station and the Birdwing Open Air Classroom, and whereas she oversaw the construction of the Lake Hodges Pedestrian Bicycle Bridge, recognized as the world's longest stress ribbon bridge, and whereas these accomplishments required extensive public and private collaboration and fundraising, and Shauna's passion and commitment were fundamental to securing the support needed to bring these projects to life. And whereas Shauna's work has played a vital role in protecting these irreplaceable landscapes and open air environments that so many community members enjoy on a regular basis, and whereas she has embraced the mission of the JPA as her own, helping turn the extraordinary vision of the San Diego River Valley Park into a reality that will benefit not only Solana Beach residents, but the region for generations. So now, therefore, I, Jill McDonald, Deputy Mayor of the City of Solana Beach, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby honor and commend Shauna Anderson for her unwavering dedication, exemplary leadership, and profound contributions to the San Diego River Valley Park.
Well done. Thank you. Shauna, would you like to say a few words?
Well, thank you very much. I really do appreciate the recognition. And talk about unwavering, the City of Solana Beach's unwavering support for the San Diego River Park. And I've worked with several Solana Beach representatives on the board over the years, and they've all been wonderful and a pleasure to work with. And I'm especially going to miss Jill very much working with you. Thank you. But most importantly, I'd like to recognize the inspiration that I drew from the citizens and the community of Solana Beach, because that's where a lot of the founders of the river park came from. And it's amazing to me. I've been inspired and energized by This little idea of protecting the San Diego Lagoon grew into a vision of protecting the entire San Diego River Valley, which turned into the San Diego River Park. And how just a few individuals in a community can make such a huge difference. And that's where I draw a lot of my inspiration. But the reality is it takes a lot of work and it's a lot of dedication. It takes staff to make these projects happen and to maintain all the assets we have for the communities. And the JPA will continue to move forward just like it has been for the almost 40 years now. And we'll continue to finish the Coast to Crest Trail, and I look forward to hiking it someday. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We'll do a picture? It's too bad Dave's not here. Yeah. Right in front there. Move closer to two. I'm taking over for Dave.
2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
See you on Friday, Shauna.
Yeah. Yes, our first mayor, Margaret, was one of the instigators of this wonderful organization. So we really have a close tie. And we're the only city in the on the board and who is not adjacent to this whole river park. But it's that important to us to acknowledge the value of this corridor. Yeah. Yes. Way back then. Yeah. Thank you so much, Shauna, for everything. Thank you. Okay, so now we're on to the approval of the agenda. City Manager, some changes?
Yes, I have one request of the council this evening, and that is to move item L2, the FY27 budget, to before L1, which is the Coastal Rail Trail informational item, if that's okay with you.
Yes, very good.
Excellent, thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda as stated by the City Manager? Councilmember Becker? And a second by Councilmember Edson. Please vote. Oh, do we have to, can we vote on this and then you just ask her? Oh, yeah. Please vote, and then we'll have the city clerk call for Councilmember Zitos.
Councilmember Zito?
Zito, yes.
Okay, do we have oral communications? Okay, so this is the portion of the agenda that provides an opportunity for members of the public to address the council on items relating to city business but not appearing on today's agenda. Pursuant to the Brown Act, no action shall be taken on by the council on public comment items. However, council may refer an item to the city manager for placement on a future agenda. The maximum time allotted is 3 minutes. Please watch the lights here. Green means go, yellow means you have 1 minute, and red means conclude rapidly, please. Please call the first speaker.
Our speaker is Lane Sherman.
Good evening, Mayor Hebner and council members. My name is Lane Sharman. I'm a resident of the city of Solana Beach. Solana Beach has long been a beacon on environmental leadership in San Diego County, from community choice energy formation to our pioneering work on climate action. The region has consistently chosen the more challenging path, not the conformist path. Tonight I'm asking you again to rise again to that legacy. The electricity system serving our residents is failing us, and the failure is not subtle. SDG&E has filed for an 8% increase in rates that, if approved, will push more than today's already 1 in 4 ratepayers into energy poverty, unable to pay their bills on time. That is not an abstraction. That is our neighbor. That is a family in this region choosing between groceries and keeping the lights on. Beyond rates, SDG&E has actively worked to undermine the clean energy transition that our constituents voted for and our policies reflect. The company has deployed union workers and lobbyists to fight retail electricity competition, to weaken net metering, and to block the development of community microgrids. And right here in Solana Beach, in our own region, SDG&E remains years behind on its commitments to underground utilities. The wires are still above us. The risk exists. The question tonight is not whether the status quo is acceptable. It clearly is not. The question is what Solana Beach is willing to do about it. There is a model worth our attention. Ann Arbor, Michigan has authorized parallel electrical infrastructure, essentially the right to run a secondary cable in the public right-of-way, connecting buildings, routing electricity the way the internet routes data openly, competitively, resiliently. The European Union has embraced similar frameworks under its Energy Communities Directive, empowering neighborhoods and municipalities to own and share locally generated power. This is not a fringe idea. It is the logical extension of everything Solana Beach already believes about clean energy, local control, and community resilience. I am asking you to do three things. First, direct city staff to formally study the Ann Arbor model and its applicability here. Second, engage the California Public Utilities Commission and state legislatures about enabling legislation for parallel distribution infrastructure. Third, volunteer Solana Beach as a pilot region for this initiative, because when Solana Beach leads, others follow. The internet didn't wait for the phone company to give permission to connect people. Clean, local, affordable electricity shouldn't have to wait either. I implore you to study this model, adopt what works, and once again, put Solana Beach on the right side of history.
Thank you, Lane. Appreciate that. Thank you.
I appreciate you taking action on this too.
Thank you. Okay, any other speakers? Okay, we are now on to mayor's and council and city manager announcements. And so I will start with mine. Summer Concerts at the Cove continues tomorrow, Thursday, June 25th at Fletcher Cove Park. These free concerts will be held every Thursday night at 6 p.m. through August 6th. This week's band will be Hawaiian music by Slack Ki Ohana. Everyone is encouraged to bring their own low-back beach chairs and picnics. Alcohol and pets are prohibited. Call the Parks and Rec Department at 858-720-4430 for more information. In celebration of our city's 40th anniversary, we're excited to do something a little different this year. On Thursday, July 2nd, we're taking our regular Thursday night concert down to the beach for a special one-night-only seaside show that's in the sand. We'll kick things off at 6 p.m. with Atomic Groove, followed by the high-energy sounds of Betamax, all set against the backdrop of ocean waves and a beautiful Solana Beach sunset. It's sure to be a memorable way to celebrate 4 decades of our amazing community, and we hope everyone will join us for this milestone event. To make your evening even easier, we encourage residents to bike to Fletcher Cove and take advantage of the free bike valet available that night. Back to School Solana Beach Donation Drive. The second annual Solana Beach Cares Back to School Supplies Drive will take place July 1st through the 30th, supporting local students and families as they prepare for the upcoming school year. Donations of new school supplies can be dropped off at Solana Beach City Hall and the La Colonia Community Center during regular business hours throughout the month. Please be sure to review the approved supply list on the city's website before donating to ensure items meet students' needs. What better way to kick off the city's 40th anniversary celebration than by giving back to our community? The San Diego County Fair. As a reminder, the fair is currently underway through July 5th and is closed Mondays and Tuesdays. Expect increased traffic and noise, especially on Via de la Valle during major events, concerts, and weekend evenings. And please be aware Surf Cup is happening starting tomorrow through July 2nd. Not an ideal time for them to have put this on. I think 344 teams will be arriving during that time. So be really mindful of the routes that you take when you're trying to get places and the time. For questions or concerns, the fair's contact information is 858-755-1161 for general information. Noise complaints, 858-794-1104. or email info@sdfair.com. And our next council meeting, there will be a council meeting next Wednesday, July 1st, rather than our regular every other Wednesday schedule. Okay, City Manager, any announcements?
Yes, I have just a couple. First, I'd like to take a moment to recognize our finance department and our finance director and team, as they have once again been awarded the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. This award is presented for our annual comprehensive financial report, or ACFR, and represents the highest standard in governmental financial reporting. This recognition marks the 24th out of the last 25 years we've earned this distinction, reflecting our longstanding commitment to transparency and excellence. I want to extend my appreciation to the Finance Director, Rachel Jacobs, as well as her team, Christine and Amanda, for their diligence and exceptional work in preparing our financial reports. Their dedication truly ensures that our community continues to benefit from clear, reliable, and trustworthy financial information. So congratulations to the entire finance team on this outstanding accomplishment. And lastly, I just want to reinforce what the mayor was just sharing. So starting tomorrow, June 25th, residents should anticipate heavy traffic along Via de la Valle and that corridor, as well as several major regional events take place simultaneously. The unusual combination of major youth soccer tournaments, the San Diego County Fair, local community events, and increased 4th of July holiday travel is expected to create significant delays throughout the area. Residents are strongly encouraged to avoid Via de la Valle if possible from the 25th through the 4th, and plan ahead and allow additional travel time. And I just want to note that I have been in touch, Del Mar, Fairgrounds, no one was aware of this tournament being hosted at the polo fields. We have reached out to those parties as well as Caltrans and to Council President Joe LaCava's office, who are all really concerned about this, and we're working together. Our city engineer is looking at where we can put some signage, and we're trying to coordinate to try to mitigate for this large-scale event happening during other important community events. So please stay tuned to any sort of newsletters that we put out or notifications should there be an issue.
This is very frustrating, I think, to all of us who have experienced what we called Carmageddon before. It's a very, very dangerous public safety situation. Last time, it was complete gridlock. Nobody was going anywhere. So if somebody needed an ambulance or needed to get home to somebody who was having an emergency or just get home, you couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So this is frustrating to us. The city of San Diego renewed the lease with the conditions that they should be putting together a traffic plan and emergency response plan. And I don't think the city of San Diego is even aware of this.
So the city of San Diego is the Department of Economic Development, who oversees the lease. They have a draft traffic control plan that they haven't shared with any of the entities up here in the North County. And
How is that a use of
we've brought in our fire chief, who has great relationships with San Diego and already reached out to the San Diego chief in charge of operations. They too haven't seen any sort of plan. So fire, sheriff are all aware of this, and we'll be continuing to work as best as we can to, like I said, mitigate for any impacts on our community.
Thank you. Councilman Bradson?
Yes, I would reiterate what you just said, Mayor, and also thank you for that last comment, City Manager, regarding Sheriff being aware. And I'm hoping that we will have a heavier sheriff presence, especially on the streets off of Via de la Valle and Nardo at Stevens, because that's where we really felt the impact last time.
Yeah. All right. And take transit to the fair if you can, or bike. That's for you, Dave. Right. Okay, now we're on to the consent agenda. Items listed on the consent calendar are to be acted upon in a single action of the City Council unless pulled for discussion. Any items pulled from the consent calendar by council members will be trailed to the end of the agenda. Do any council members wish to pull an item from consent? No, I don't see. Dave, you're going to just interrupt me, please, if you have anything that you need to say if I don't call on you. And City Manager, City Clerk, has anybody from the public pulled anything? Okay, very good. May I have a motion? Oh, before I do, yes.
We do have to do the reporting out, or the oral report regarding the salaries.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I have a note right here to Jenna, and I just missed it. Thank you.
No problem. So, pursuant to California Government Code Section 54953D3A, prior to taking final action on the city manager's employment agreement, which is consent item J15, and the management salary schedule, which is in part consent item J5, a verbal summary of the recommended actions must be provided. So accordingly, the city manager's employment agreement on today's agenda for recommended approval reflects a 4% base salary increase for an annual salary of $286,000 per year, a $3,750 increase in deferred compensation, an increase in technology reimbursement to $1,200 per year, and an increase in severance pay to 12 months base pay. And then for the management salary schedule, which pertains to all of the city's directors, on today's agenda for recommended approval, that it reflects a 3% increase to base salary and a 6% increase in healthcare benefits.
Very good. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve consent? Motion by Edson, second by Becker. Please vote.
Councilmember Zito?
Zito, yes.
Okay, consent is approved. We're now moving on to our two public hearings. The first one, K1, City Manager.
Yes, the first item is a report on the vacancies, recruitments, and retention efforts in compliance with Assembly Bill 2561. We have Jose Gonzalez, our Senior Human Resources Analyst, who will give a brief presentation before I hand it over to him, or as we're pulling up the slides. If you recall, this was based on state legislation a couple years ago requiring cities and districts and agencies to read out on an annual basis their vacancy reporting. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Jose.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the public. My name is Jose Gonzalez. I'm the Senior HR Analyst here. This presentation is meant to supplement the information already contained in the public hearing item. We'll be covering a little bit of information on AB 2561, as well as going over vacancy, recruitment, and retention efforts for the city in calendar year 2025. So a little bit of background on AB 2561. It became effective on January 1st, 2025, and it added a government section code whereby the intent of it is to increase transparency of public sector organizations' staffing issues and address any solutions that might be relevant for persistent vacancies in a public sector organization. This is done by having public sector organizations have a report out every fiscal year for the preceding calendar year. And tonight's presentation satisfies the requirements for AB 2561. A little bit more information about AB 2561. The government code also requires public sector organizations to have a conversation with recognized employee bargaining groups. The city currently has 3 recognized employee bargaining groups. That is the miscellaneous group, the Fire Association, and the Marine Safety Unit. So all 3 bargaining groups were notified of tonight's presentation. They were also provided an opportunity to come in and also present information if they wanted to. None of them elected to do that. So here we are today. A little bit of a recap for how staffing looked like in calendar year 2025. We had a total of 16 recruitments, so this does not include temporary or seasonal staff. That's 16 vacancies, a total of 10 recruitments. Again, that does not include temporary or seasonal recruitments. And we hired a total of 13 regular employees. So again, that does not include temporary or seasonal staff. Now, even though it's not required by AB 2561, the Human Resources Department did hire and onboard 58 employees in the calendar year 2025. So this includes seasonals, temporary, any other employees or rehires that are on a temporary basis, as well as regular employees. At the bottom of the slide, you're seeing a report out for each of the 3 bargaining groups that we have at the city. So for the Marine Safety Unit and the Fire Association, both of those units had a 0% vacancy rate at the end of the year. So no vacancies were there for those particular bargaining groups. And the miscellaneous employee group was the only recognized bargaining group that did have a vacancy rate above 0%. They had a 5.6% vacancy rate, and that is because there was 1 vacancy within that group. So some information on recruitment efforts that we have at the city. We try to cast a very wide net to make sure that we're attracting as many qualified applicants as possible. And the way that we do that is that we advertise in as many places as possible. So government jobs is our primary jobs board that we announce our recruitments on. Anytime a job is posted on there, it's also copied onto other major job boards as well. So that is Indeed, Glassdoor. So those recruitments are copied over to other major job boards. We've also had success in increasing our presence on LinkedIn as well. So posts announcing recruitments within the city have increased in calendar year 2025 and calendar year 2026. And we also utilize any professional listservs or specialized job boards. So for example, although this is calendar year 2026 for our senior civil engineer recruitment, we did post on the American Public Works Association San Diego chapter to specifically target engineers within the field in the San Diego County area. So that's just one example of the different specialized industry boards that we utilize. So recommendations for today, we do recommend having the public hearing, which we're doing right now, opening it up for questions, receiving testimony, and then closing the public hearing, and then receiving the report and filing the report.
Thank you, Jose. Before I go to questions, we'll do disclosures. I have nothing to disclose.
I have nothing to disclose.
I have nothing to disclose.
Nothing to disclose.
Councilmember Zito?
You do disclose.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Jose? I see no questions. Thank you so much for your
Perfect. Thank you.
presentation. Okay, may I have a motion to close the public hearing, please? Motion by Becker, second by Edson. Please vote.
Councilmember Zito?
Zito, yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. So we just accept this. We don't have to have a vote. We do have a vote? Okay, so we need to have a vote to approve the attached vacancy status report. We have a motion to that effect. Councilmember Becker? Okay, and Councilmember Edson?
Second.
Oops. Can you switch them out, please? I mean, just remove your motion. Okay, very good. Councilmember Becker makes the motion. Councilmember Edson seconds that. Okay, very good. Please vote.
Councilmember Zito?
Zito, yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you so much. We're now on to the second item. An
Yes,
open public hearing.
The
City Manager.
second item is K2. It's a public hearing on 146 South Granados Avenue. The applicant is Pelly, and it's modification 26-002 and minor exception 26-001. As the mayor mentioned, this is an open public hearing. I'll turn it over to Corey Andrews, our interim community development director, to present.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. As was presented to you on May 27th, the applicant is requesting a modification to the original development review permit and structure development permit in order to remove or modify the conditions specific to the fence along the southern property line that was included in the resolution in 2003. And then also, if the council is able to do that, the applicant was requesting a minor exception to allow for an increase to the maximum fence height on that property line. The original request included a 10-foot solid wall, and I have some updates regarding that I will be presenting. And then the applicants were also requesting that the fence be solid except for where the fence is located within the front yard setback. So at that May 27th City Council public hearing, the council directed the applicant to install some posts with a string line in order to have a visual illustration of the proposed fence. And then the council was able to visit the sites to see the fence from 146 South Granados as well as 150 South Granados. And staff also visited the site and took some photos. So I have those photos, or a representation of those photos in the next few slides. At that council meeting, the project was continued to the June 10th meeting. So first I have some photos from the Pelly residence. On the left is a photo from the courtyard area, and then on the right is from their upstairs hallway, looking towards the proposed location of the fence towards the south. And then these photos are taken off from the deck off of the media room. The left side is a standard photo, and the right side has the zoom feature used.
And those string lines represent 8 feet and 10 feet.
Correct. The first string line would be 8 feet above the grade and then 10 foot above. So then these photos were taken from the Durfus residence, which is the property at 150 South Granados. The left side of the screen shows the view from the kitchen window, and then the right side shows the kitchen window with a zoom. And then this is a photo from the living room on the left, and then on the right is the bedroom windows from the lower, I guess, southern-facing bedroom, or northern-facing bedroom, excuse me. So on June 10th, staff met with the applicant and the neighbor in order to facilitate discussion towards an agreement on the proposed fence heights. At that meeting, there was some progress made. So the applicant requested an additional continuance to allow for more time to work with the neighbor. So the project was continued to this meeting tonight. On June 17th, staff met with the applicant and the neighbors on the property at 150 South Granados, and we walked the site where the existing fence was located, and the applicant and the neighbors eventually came to an agreement on the proposed fence heights. Today, we received a signed version of that agreement, which was provided in your blue folder attachments. So this kind of shows the agreed upon heights. So at the bottom of the screen, we're looking at South Granados, and we're going to move from the western property line towards the eastern property line, which is the rear property line for the Pelly residence. So for the first 35 feet, for the first 35 linear feet, the fence would be constructed at 42 inches solid with a 2 foot or 24 inches additional that is 80% open to light. That distance would get you to the existing fence that's on top of the slope. So that would be within our regulations for a fence within the front yard setback. The next 7.5 linear feet would be 6 foot solid. After that, this section was kind of determined to be the critical privacy area, and the applicant and the neighbor agreed that the fence in this location, which is for 49 linear feet, would be 8 foot solid. For the next 39 linear feet, the fence would drop down to 6 foot solid, and then the remaining 22 feet of the fence would be constructed at the existing height, or what's currently out there on site, not to exceed 156 mean sea level. The Pellys also provided their proposed fence materials, so it's going to be a cedar fence located in that location. The city has added conditions of approval to the resolution in order to ensure that the fence is constructed to those heights that were agreed upon on site. These conditions include having the applicant certify the grade that is currently below the existing fence and the heights of the existing fence, and then also provide a survey showing that the proposed fence would be constructed entirely on the Pelly property. And then one is a requirement that the grade below the proposed fence must be at the same mean sea level elevation as the grade it currently is or lower. And then finally, once the fence is constructed, the applicant will provide a certification showing that the fence was constructed to the heights that are listed in the agreement. So in order to approve a minor exception, the city council needs to be able to make the required findings. One, that the strict or literal interpretation and enforcement of the specified regulation would result in a practical difficulty or unnecessary physical hardship. And two, that the granting of the minor exception would not be detrimental to the public health, safety, welfare, or materially injurious to any properties within the vicinity. So in conclusion, staff recommends that the council conduct the public hearing, find the project exempt from the California Environmental Equality Act, and find that the circumstances have changed that warranted the original conditions regarding the fence in the 2003 resolution, and remove conditions BI and BII. And if the council can make the required findings, approve the minor exception to adopt Resolution 2026-061 for a new fence at the southern property line as outlined in the agreement. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Thanks so much, Corey. The public hearing is open, as I stated, but we are going to go through disclosures again. It's a little unusual. It's normally when we keep a public hearing open, we are asked by the city attorney or told by the city attorney not to speak to many members of the public, but because we were visiting two members of the public's homes, of course, we were going to speak with them. So I do have additional disclosures. I think we all do. So these are mine. On June 6th at 3 p.m., I visited the Dervis construction site at 150 South Granados in preparation for the Pelly application for a minor exception to increase our code's fence height from by 2 feet and all solid. I wanted to see the impacts of the fence at the two heights from all rooms in the Dervis residence. I was able to view the fence from the main living area, which is the kitchen, dining, and living area, the deck off the living area, and the north-facing bedroom. However, I could not view the fence from the primary bedroom because I was told it was on the second floor, which was only accessible by a ladder, which I did not wish to climb. Councilmember Edson joined me at around 3:30 that date, June 6th, to visit the Pelly residence to view the mocked-up fence. Mr. Pelly showed us the dowel, measured it in front of us, then climbed his bank to compare it to the dowels plus string that were installed to verify it was indeed 10 feet tall. Councilmember Jewel Edson and I met at the construction site at 150 South Granados, the Dervis residence, for a second visit on Sunday, June 7th at 2:30 p.m. We viewed the same areas for a second time. Deputy Mayor McDonald?
So I, on June 10th, which was the date that we were going to continue with the public hearing, I'd been out of town between, I guess, the 3rd and the 10th. I did not view from inside the Pelly, from inside Mr. and Mrs. Pelly's yard because I think by the time I got back, I had set up something with Mrs. Dervis, and it appeared that they were going to come to some agreement. So I did go on that day. I spent some time in front of both homes. I drove around to the backside to see what I could see. I spent time with Mrs. Dervis both in the yard and inside the house. Yes, I didn't go to the second floor either because it wasn't accessible, but I did go where it was safe to walk inside the house at that time, and then spend a little more time kind of looking at the front and determining what I thought.
Thank you. Councilmember Edson?
Thank you, Mayor. So in addition to my previous disclosures, obviously, on June 2nd, I visited 150 South Granados to view the dowel and string lines that had been installed by Mr. Pelly. Mrs. Dervis provided access to the property. I observed the view toward the Pelly property to the north from the Dervis north side yard, main floor ceremonial rooms, the living room, dining room, and kitchen, and the north side deck and bedroom. I was unable to observe the dowels and string lines from the master bedroom because it was under construction and only accessible by a ladder. I didn't feel safe doing that. Mrs. Dervis asked some procedural questions. I referred her to the VAT guidelines and toolkits for some examples of ways to mitigate property concerns. Next, on June 6th, along with Mayor Hebner, as was mentioned, I viewed the dowels and string lines from the Pelly property at 146 South Granados. Mr. and Mrs. Pelly presented us with a dowel that was wrapped with red tape in 2 locations, which they measured in front of us to confirm that the tape lines measured 8 feet and 10 feet. Mr. Pelly then climbed the slope and held the dowel in 3 locations, the 2 where he had installed the fixed dowels, and in the center between the 2 fixed dowels. I viewed Durfus project to the south from the Pelly's ground floor patio and through their first and second floor south-facing windows and from the second floor deck. Mr. Pelly asked a procedural question, which Mayor Hebner answered. On June 7th, I rendezvoused with Mayor Hebner at the Durfus property to once again view the Pelly property through the dowels and string lines that had been installed by Mr. Pelly. Mrs. Durfus provided access, guided us through the main floor and exterior of the property. She shared the project floor plans and asked procedural questions. I observed the views toward the Pelly property from the north-facing ceremonial rooms, again, the living room, dining area, and kitchen, the living room and dining area, deck and north-facing bedrooms and north side yard, and again was unable to view from the master bedroom because there was no access.
Thank you. Councilmember Becker.
Yes, thank you. I did not write down the dates that I went to go see the properties. I did go to the Durfus property first and was able to view from her house. I was not able to go out onto the deck or whatever that was because it didn't look safe. But then the following day, I went to the Pellys, and both of them were home, and I was able to view from their side of the home as well. I talked about the photos that they had taped on the walls, and that's my disclosures. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Zito?
Yes, I visited both the Pelly's property and the Durfus property on June 8th. I was able to go through the interior of the Pelly's property and see the potential concerns from all of the rooms, plus the photos that were taken that was just mentioned by Councilmember Becker. I was able to look at the potential impacts from the Durfus property everywhere on the first floor and take a view from all the key areas on the first floor, as others have noted the ADU area, which is sort of out of consideration here anyway, was not accessible, so I didn't go up there.
Very good. Okay, Council, do we have any questions of staff at this point? I see no questions. City Clerk, do we have speakers on this item? Yes, please call the first speaker.
John Corn.
Yes, just if you fill out, yes. Yeah, go ahead, John. Would you prefer to go first, Mr. Pelly? That would be fine. Okay, then you can fill out a slip and hand it to the city clerk afterward.
I apologize, I didn't realize as an applicant I had to fill out this slip. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council members. Shelley and I are extremely grateful for the time the city has dedicated to this matter. Notably, Ms. Muto, who took the time to conduct 2 mediations, Ms. Andrews, who has spent countless hours, and each of you for coming to our home. Since our last meeting, we've had 2 productive mediations with the 150 owners. On June 17th, at the request of Ms. Muto, Shelley and I, Mr. Durfus, his attorney, Mr. Korn, and Ms. Andrews all went to the 150 property. We stood at the fence line, measured the sections, and agreed, in the presence of city staff, to fence heights and dimensions consistent with what is in the staff report before you tonight. Ms. Muto confirmed the agreement that same afternoon and thanked the parties in a confirming group email. Mr. Korn, the attorney for the 150 owners, followed up that afternoon in a group email, thanked Ms. Muto and Ms. Andrews for helping us reach an agreement. The staff report also confirms twice that parties reached an agreement. Both parties have now signed the agreement in its original form with no changes. We ask, we ask council to approve the application as outlined in the staff report and vote yes. Shelley and I are both grateful for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Honorable Mayor and council members, thank you very much. I'm John Coyne. I represent the Dervises. For one, I do want to say that I think that the parties worked together very well here. Your staff was excellent. The Pelleys, we worked well together, at least when I met with them on the second time. And we reached an agreement that I think is workable for everybody, both sides. And in fact, I think it'll be better for everybody. So as long as council can approve it along the lines of the recommendation, particularly number 4, as was depicted on slide number 8, then I think we're all in great shape, and we would support the application. This is a situation where they say that, tall fences make good neighbors, although that's not the actual quote from the Robert Frost poem. But in this case, it's true. Tall fences will make better neighbors as long as it's the height that is shown on slide 8. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. It looks like it's time to close the public hearing. May I have a motion to close the public hearing? Motion by Becker, second by Edson. Please vote to close the public hearing.
Councilmember Zito?
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous. It's closed. Time for council deliberation, which basically comes down to, can we make the findings and will we like to accept staff recommendation? So I'll start. I'm able to make all of the findings. I have been able to find that the conditions on the southern property side of this, of the Pelleys have changed enough to warrant granting a waiver of the limiting the fence height that was elaborated in the 2003 resolution, and I think it was BI and BII, and I'm able to make all of the findings for the minor exception. So I'll make a motion, and may I have a second? Councilmember Becker?
Yeah, I'd like to second that and also just thank the parties really for coming together. I know it was a long process, but I think it's the right result. And I'm really happy that you guys came to a good resolution.
Thank you. Anybody other comments? I see none. Please push the second button.
Sure.
Yes, Councilmember Zito?
Sorry, through the mayor, I just wanted to take a moment to thank also the Pelleys and Mrs. Dervis for letting me tour and letting all of us tour. It's a lot of it's a big deal to let that many people into your home and show them around, and it's really helpful in this decision-making process. So I did want to thank them on that.
Yeah, thank you. I think we all feel the same way. Thank you all. Okay, please vote.
Councilmember Zito?
Zito, yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, we're now on to staff reports, and we're taking them in a different order.
Yes. So our first item this evening is L2. It's the adopted budget updates for fiscal year 27. Rachel Jacobs, our finance director, is here to present. We also have, I think, our marine safety captain, Greg Uruburu, that is present as well, if you have any questions related to marine safety. With that, I'll turn it over to Rachel.
Thank you.
I know. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Tonight, we're going to go over the fiscal 27 budget update. Here's a look at the fiscal 2027 adopted budget, along with the changes that have been made through council resolutions to date. These changes reduced the original projected surplus from the $132,909 down to a original projected deficit of $213,988, and this is as of May 26, 2026. After conducting a trend analysis, staff has reviewed all of the revenues and has come up with some recommended revenue budget adjustments for fiscal year 2027. The first is the administrative fee revenues. We are recommending to decrease that by $15,000, and that's related to the Santa Fe Hills HOA mid-agreement change that was made at the last council meeting. The building plan check fee, increasing that by $250,000 to $680,000 due to the volume of permit activity. The CVC fine increase of $20,000 to $105,000 based on the fine activity. Investment interest for Chandler revenue budget increase of $450,000 to $807,000. This increase is due to carrying higher balances in our investment accounts than we previously assumed during budget development. Staff had budgeted based on anticipating spending down capital improvement funds, but many of those projects have not yet started, so we've been earning interest on those funds while we wait for those projects to begin. And the RDA pass-through payments, based on projections received, we are increasing that by $30,000 to $334,880, which is a total revenue adjustment of $735,000. Here's a look at the expenditure adjustments. Staff recommends increasing the expenditures for general fund a total of $510,000, which is salary and benefits, a total of $919,943. Professional services is a decrease of $577,000, and equipment and supplies is an increase of $167,475. These adjustments, again, result in a total of $510,418, and on the next slide, I'll break that down further into what those are. As mentioned, the total budget adjustment for salaries and benefits is $919,943. There's a request for $734,943 for the fire department, and that is related to the fire management changes and hiring 7 full-time employees that will be shared with Delmar under that new shared cost-sharing agreement. There's also a request for $185,000 increase in the marine safety part-time and seasonal wages, and that's due to, during the initial budget development, seasonal wages were budgeted at a reduced amount based on the assumption that the increased permanent staff would lessen the need for seasonal coverage. However, due to the sustained off-season crowds and the need for backfilling based on participation in regional operations and required trainings, we're recommending to increase that budget from $380,000 to $565,000, which actually brings it slightly above the fiscal 25 actuals. The professional services, we're requesting a budget adjustment, which is a decrease of $577,000. That includes a $10,000 increase for the community grant awards, as council had requested. There's a decrease in $612,000, which was for the fire management changes that was originally budgeted for the agreement with Encinitas and will help offset the costs of those full-time employees. And there's a $25,000 increase for the HR department, which is for recruitment for vacant positions. The total requested budget adjustment for equipment, supplies, and trainings is $167,475. The city manager's department is requesting $26,000, which is $6,000 for trainings, conference, and meetings for the sustainability staff, and $20,000 for new city logo branded items for city staff and giveaways. There's a $78,000 request for the fire department. These are again related to the fire management changes and include training, membership dues, equipment, software costs, and fuel. The HR department is requesting just over $15,000, which is related to unemployment costs, pre-employment costs, and tuition reimbursement, as well as additional membership costs for the HR association. And the recreation department is requesting $47,800, which includes $400 for the membership dues for the new full-time employee and $46,000 for the 40th anniversary events and promotional items and $1,400 for the Fletcher Cove bulletin board upgrade. Based on those recommended adjustments, this is a look at the revised projection for the fiscal year 2027 surplus. So the surplus, after considering the increased revenue of $735,000 and the increased expenditures of $510,418, brings a surplus of $10,594. Based on staff recommendations, here's a summary of the proposed adjustments for the Measure S fund. Staff recommends increasing revenues by $297,233, which $264,233 of that is related to the reimbursed costs for the South Nardo agreement that you recently signed. There's an offsetting increase in expenditures for that same agreement, and then an increase in $33,000 for Chandler investment interest. And again, that's due to having a larger balance in the investment account. Overall, this is a projected surplus addition of $33,000. Based on the increased revenues of $293,000 and the increased expenditures of $264,000, the projected surplus would be $2.3 million. Staff also reviewed all the other funds and has some proposed adjustments. I've highlighted the most notable here on the screen, but overall the total revenue adjustments are just over $1.4 million. The most notable revenue increases are the $500,000 federal grant award from Congressman Levin for the Glencrest Sidewalk project, and the $350,000 state grant award from State Senator Blake Spear for the CRT extension project. And the expenditures are $802,500, and the most notable expansions are the offsetting expenditures related to those projects and Glencrest Sidewalk. There's an adjustment to change some of the funding sources away from TIF to use the grant funding instead. Here's a look at the original adopted capital improvement plan. These projects are broken down into 4 categories: street, traffic, and storm drain projects at $2.98 million, city facility projects at $1.45 million, sustainability projects at $300,000, and sanitation projects at $300,000. The total CIP budget was just over $5 million and is funded from these 12 different funding sources as shown. Measure S was the largest portion at $1.9 million, with $390,000 towards the pavement program, $300,000 towards the storm drain improvement program, $500,000 for La Colonia building and courtyard improvements, and $800,000 for the marine safety building design and construction. Another notable category, again, is the federal and state grant awards that were previously mentioned. This is a look at the adjustments for the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2027. The revised total budget is just over $7.4 million. The street, traffic, and storm drain increased by just over $2.2 million. The changes include reducing the ADA pedestrian ramp to remove that project as it's being deferred for fiscal year 2027. Adding an additional $1.2 million to the pavement program, which includes increased Transnet funding as well as that cost-sharing agreement for South Nardo. An additional $300,000 for the CRT, which again is due to that state grant from the state senator. Changing the Glencrest sidewalk and increasing Transnet funding, as well as the Congressman Levin Office award for the federal grant. And adding Avocado Place storm drain project for $50,000 from Measure S. The city facilities increased by $207,000, and that was adding the fire station parking lot improvement project at $160,000, as paving is for the new vehicles for expanded staff on site, and then increasing the fire station living room cabinet project by $47,000. This is a look at the total fiscal year 2027 revised budget. This includes the original adopted budget that it was shown just over $5 million, those adjustments of $2.4 million, as well as fiscal year 2026 rollover funds of $15.1 million. These funds were budgeted projects that have not yet been spent or encumbered. The largest items include $9.1 million for Loma Santa Fe East construction, and there's $2.4 million for marine safety project that's being held for construction. The fiscal year 2026 purchase orders shown here of 1.5 million are encumbered funds for current contracts for projects that are underway or have already been awarded. The largest items shown here are there's 405,000 for the marine safety design and 325,000 for Cliff and Rosa Street pedestrian bridge project. The total revised CIP budget for 2027 is just over 24.7 million. And the breakdown of these categories by project can be found in attachment 3 of the staff report. This presentation was given to the Budget and Finance Commission on June 8th, and they had no further comments or recommendations. Staff recommendation tonight is to adopt Resolution 2026-064, authorizing the amendment of the fiscal 2027 adopted budget. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Thanks, Rachel. Good presentation, and thank you for all your work on this. Really appreciate it. Any questions? Councilmember Zito?
Thanks for the presentation. Sorry, I just had a question on if you could go into a little bit more in the statement around how we're getting so much off of our investment returns and what's generating that. You know, I know we're in a declining interest rate environment, and the fact that it's more than double what we expected it to be I'm just curious. We were in the first half of the year in a declining interest rate environment.
Sure. So a big portion of that is due to those investment accounts having more in them. We basically, when we do the budget, we anticipate where we expect the balances to be in those investment accounts. And as I showed on the previous slide, we do have over $15 million in projects that we had budgeted to do in 2026 that we have not spent yet. So those funds are sitting in the investment accounts and earning additional interest that we didn't anticipate earning this year.
Okay, that's great. That's helpful. I mean, sort of great. It'll be good to get those projects underway, but that's very helpful. So it's largely due to having larger balances in our accounts. The other thing I just wanted to note, which was just, I guess this is more of a editorial comment that I did notice in the attachments with the 5-year plan that I'll just make the statement that I hope we're able to get underway with the construction of the Marine Safety Center before 2031. I'm just noticing we have this regular thing out there, and I know that we can only project, but I'm hopeful that will come to fruition before that far in the future of us being able to make some construction progress on that. But thanks for the presentation.
Thanks. I think we all agree with that statement, Councilmember. Okay, I see no other questions, and I don't think that we have any speakers, do we? No speakers. May I have a motion to adopt staff recommendation, Resolution 2026-064? Councilmember Edson
So moved.
and Deputy Mayor McDonald.
Yes.
Would you like to second that? Yes. Okay, very good. I will call for the vote.
Councilmember Zito?
Zito, yes.
Great. Okay, that passes unanimously. Again, thank you so much, Rachel. Really appreciate all your hard work on that. And we're in good shape.
Yes, and thank you, Rachel, and to the whole team. And I want to say also to all of the directors and division leads who got information to finance so that Rachel could put together that report, and who continue to do a great job with managing their workload and projects and being really mindful of how they're using our public money. So thank you.
Councilmember Edson, did you have a final comment on this item?
Yes, I just wanted to thank Rachel as well. I love the new presentation. It's very easy to digest. Usually we have these big columns of numbers, and I realize that you put together these presentations for the public as well. And thank you for doing that. Super easy. Thanks.
Yeah, great, thanks. Okay, back to you, City Manager.
Okay, the pressure's on, Austin. So the next item this evening is an informational item, kind of an opportunity for us to touch back with the council on plans for the Coastal Rail Trail extension. As you know, work has been done over the years between our city and Encinitas. So while there is an interconnectedness at the northern boundary of 101 with Encinitas, this item is solely focused on the extension of the coastal rail trail and what is necessary to accommodate that to our jurisdictional boundaries. We continue to work with Encinitas on sharing information. This is the first available information that you're getting, and then we will be sharing that with the Encinitas staff and continuing to collaborate on how that, what I like to call the zipper, zips all the way up and into the next jurisdiction. And that includes that crossing that Encinitas had applied for a couple of years ago. So again, this is really to get your feedback on the design work that our staff have done on the Coastal Rail Trail in coordination with our amazing technical consultant at Chen Ryan. And then just some of the design specifications so we can go back and start to put some more details together and then move that forward, hopefully to bid in probably the next 6 months or more. So we can move that forward for construction. So with that, I'll turn it over to our city engineer, Austin Frisbee, and I think he's going to also introduce one of our newest staff to all of you.
Yes, thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of the council. Austin Frisbee, City Engineer. I do want to take a brief moment. I know our newly onboarded Senior Civil Engineer is with us, Olga Reyes. Just an opportunity to meet her. She's been a great addition to the team, comes from the city of El Cajon, a traffic engineering background, and she will play a paramount role in this project as we move forward.
Great, welcome.
Getting into things, I just want to also take a moment to introduce our consultant. He's our on-call traffic engineer from Chen Ryan, Ross Duenas. He'll be assisting me with the presentation tonight and available for any questions that you may have. As we get into it, tonight's item is an update on the Coastal Rail Trail Extension project. Staff will be introducing a conceptual design, discussing some of the key project considerations, and look to receive council's feedback on the concept and future coordination efforts with the city of Encinitas. First, to begin, kind of give us a place of where we're at in the world. As we know, the Coastal Rail Trail runs from Villa de la Valle in the south up to the Ocean Street to the north. This project looks specifically at that missing link from Ocean Street to the boundary with the city of Encinitas. This is that final connection of the Coastal Rail Trail is a regional segment recognized by SANDAG that stretches from Oceanside down to San Diego. This project area, as you are well aware, runs along Highway 101, is constrained by the conservation easement placed over the existing Harbaugh Seaside Trails, and that was greatly taken into consideration with this design concept as we move forward, as we balance the mobility improvements with environmental protection. So the existing Coastal Rail Trail is approximately 1.5 miles long, serves as an important active transportation corridor through Solana Beach, and a larger rails to trails corridor that extends from Oceanside to San Diego, as I recently mentioned. This extension would continue that facility from Ocean Street to the northern city limits and includes an elevated multi-use trail, landscaping and irrigation improvements, restoration and enhancement of the existing viewing platform area, and so forth. Just a little bit of framing around what has been done to date. The city was in receipt of a $300,000 grant through Senator Blake Spear's efforts to advance planning and design work, and tonight's discussion will focus on that conceptual configuration and how we move this project forward. How we got here, going back to 2022, staff had diligently worked on a project that could connect the CRT to the northern city limits with Encinitas while providing a mechanism to address potential unsafe crossings at 101 and the Harbaugh Seaside Trails. The city previously had a consultant prepare concept designs, as shown on the slide above me, to connect the CRT extension at the 101 crossing. The final concept design was submitted by the city of Encinitas, and then they received receipt of a HSIP, a Highway Safety Improvement Program grant, in February of 2025. Where we are today, using feedback from both cities' officials as well as what we've received from public input, the city has worked with Chen Ryan, our consultant, to review and refine the CRT extension. This included an analysis of the property title for the Seaside Trails, a greater understanding of the conservation easement and what comes with it, along with a right-of-way delineation along the east side of 101. Following all of this, we worked with the consultant Chen Ryan to develop this concept exhibit to illustrate what we believe is the optimal conceptual alignment and overall project vision, and hopeful that we're able to receive feedback from you tonight. The goal here is to create a safe, continuous, and comfortable facility that allows multimodal transportation through the use of vehicles, bicyclists, and pedestrians while minimizing impacts to adjacent environmental resources. This concept maintains a trail adjacent to Highway 1 while providing ingress and egress avenues for all modes of transportation. The terminus of this project allows exit avenues for pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicles, and allows for traffic to maintain in an uninterrupted manner for northbound and southbound directions. City staff and Jen Ryan have evaluated several constraints, including roadway geometry, the extent of the conservation easement, environmental considerations, and future crossing opportunities. And the concept tonight shows the most feasible approach identified to date, and while remaining within the existing roadway limits of Highway 101. City staff would recommend a phased approach for this project as we work through from the north to the south direction and continue the engagement with the City of Encinitas as we move the project beyond the conceptual design. Couple of things we do want to note regarding the CRT extension is, as I mentioned, the minimization of environmental impacts, and we seek to maintain Class 2 bike facilities in each direction. So we are in kind or bettering the bike facilities along this corridor. On the northbound Highway 101, there is a road diet to restrict it to one vehicle lane within the city of Solana Beach to accommodate the CRT within the confines of Highway 101. This approach avoids the encroachment into conservation easements and limits any potential environmental disturbance. The southbound Highway 101, which extends into the city of Encinitas, does not have any sort of road diets, consistent with feedback that their city council has provided. And these bike facilities are being designed to provide flexibility and accommodate the potential HSIP-funded pedestrian crossing project with the city of Encinitas. The proposed trail as itself remains consistent with the CRT proper to the south, providing an 8-foot wide two-way facility with 2-foot buffers on each side. We would seek to provide safety features inclusive of bollard lighting, vertical curb, and cable railing to delineate the environmental trail, the Harbaugh Seaside Trails, from the CRT proper. This project would also include landscaping and irrigation improvements to complement the existing coastal rail trail aesthetic and work along the existing platform area to improve the enhanced viewing corridor and rest opportunities for trail users. A critical component of this project is our coordination with the City of Encinitas. Tonight is a strict focus on the CRT extension, but staff will continue to communicate with the City of Encinitas to find a common ground and where we can best work to tie our cities together. As I mentioned previously and have harped on, protecting the environmental resource has been paramount in this design, and the alignment, as shown today, stays within the existing roadway footprint and within the asphalt berm in terms of structure or site visibilities. This would require some limited grading, but beyond that, we have remained within the city right-of-way and outside of the conservation easement. One of the things I do want to touch on regarding a known issue along the Highway 101 segment there is speeding. So one of the reasons that there is a road diet that's proposed is due to the prevailing speed as it relates to the speed limit. So traffic engineering protocol design is typically based on the prevailing speed of motorists rather than what's the posted speed limit. And really that's because of the general recognition that drivers will select what they believe is the proper speed based on the surrounding environment both for them, the roadway geometry, and how the vehicles around them are doing. So in this case, we have a 4-lane roadway. It allows for almost free flow traffic based on the average daily traffic that we're seeing, which is why we've seen elevated prevailing speeds on the magnitude of 40 to 45 miles an hour. There are some provisions that have been recently adopted through assembly bills that can allow for the reduction of speed limits. However, those don't always work in practice, as it's usually a physical barrier or physical improvement that is necessitated to lower the speed limit through lane narrowing, curb extensions, lane reductions, pedestrian refuges, or enhanced striping. So the item tonight does not have a direct fiscal impact associated with what the recommended action is. City staff will return to the council when we have a more refined alternative based on feedback we've received with an opinion of probable construction cost to accompany that. And depending on the council's direction, staff will continue to research funding sources for this project and perform the necessary studies. In closing, staff is requesting 2 actions tonight. First, receive the presentation regarding the CRT extension project, and secondly, receive feedback on the proposed project concept and preferred configuration, predominantly as it relates to the road diet consideration for the northbound traffic, the alignment itself, and the proposed cross-section, any potential requirements or supplemental areas regarding landscape and irrigation, considerations for public amenities and sample panel space, and then anything that may have been missed during the presentation. With that being said, Ross and I are available for any questions.
Thanks so much, Austin. Very thorough. Questions? I have a couple. So if you could go to slide 6, please, Austin.
6, yes.
Yeah, right there. So under the coastal rail trail design, it says vertical curb with cable railing.
Yes.
Could you please, where's a railing going to be?
Yes, so I'll, hopefully you can see so the railing would be, the vertical curb would run along the east side of the CRT, and this would mainly be to serve as a deterrent for foot users or bicycle users to avoid any sort of encroachment on the Harbaugh Seaside Trails.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it going to be the same as the post and rope thing, or cable rail?
It's open to whatever council would prefer. That would be the current arrangement is almost a cable fence and a 3/4 inch or 1 inch galvanized.
Okay. We don't have to make this decision tonight.
No,
right?
this is just
No.
to receive feedback.
Okay. And then my second question is, it said improvements to the platform. Aren't we removing the crescent-shaped platform? Or was there another platform that referred to on slide 6?
Yes, that is the intent, is to remove that.
Okay, so that's what you meant by improvements.
Correct. Yeah.
It would be an improvement to the area, that's for sure. Okay. And then you also mentioned we might be looking for more funding. Is there like sort of an estimate that you have that's more than the 300,000 for what we're doing?
I would believe it's going to be more than the 300,000 that's provided in Senator Blakespeare's grant. We do not have a refined estimate at this time. I would imagine just based on rule of thumb, depending on this concept that's provided here and the limits of the asphalt that we do in the upcoming PCI evaluation, probably between 500 and 1.5, if I had to guess.
Oh, that's a big range. Okay.
And
all right.
that's really subject to the level of the asphalt improvements and the landscaping and irrigation palette that's selected and the cable railing fence, all those things kind of culminate.
Okay, and then you asked about the sample garden that's out there. There's a couple benches that I would like to keep there because those were identified as a public viewing spot. They could be improved in the way they look, if that's possible. And then I'm open to hearing what the rest of the council says about the other sample. Again, these are the samples that we poured for the Fletcher Cove Park improvements, and they've been out there since 2007 or 11 when we did I just remember those were the years I was mayor, and that's when we did the ribbon cutting on the park. I think it was 7. I think it was 2007. I like seeing them personally, but they may or may not integrate with what we, where it will eventually be within the context of this extension. So I might be a little bit too nostalgic about it, but open to what others have to say. I don't think we have to make that decision tonight, or would you like to know that?
We would recommend some feedback on it, but not a concrete decision is required.
Okay, all right, okay. Councilman Bredson?
I would kind of defer to you, Mayor, with that regard to that, because you were integral to the CRT. I mean, it's your baby.
It wasn't that wasn't an original part of the design, but it was, why I think it's meaningful is because it was a lot of work with former Mayor Mike Nichols, who had in his professional life designed Fletcher Cove Park, and with a lot of public input, and those were the samples of what we were going to see. There's squares that are sort of set out sort of randomly. I don't know if they could be lifted and perhaps rearranged in some sort of a more linear design so that they could be used almost as stepping stones or something. Just an idea. I am partial to keeping them though. Yeah.
I am too for that reason.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any comments?
No problem with that.
Councilmember Zito, comments or questions?
Yeah, sure. And since you're on that, I'll talk, on the samples, I always like the idea of retaining some history or something like that, but if they are kept, I do think that perhaps there should be something there that indicates what they are, because it is kind of confusing. You're sitting there like, why is this stuff here that kind of looks like a mess? And all of us that have the long history of the city, we understand that. But maybe as part of this improvement, we could just add something that indicates, hey, this is just the history of building the improvements to Fletcher Cove Park, and just note so the public knows that.
Good comment.
But I have so I'd be fine keeping them. I just like information.
Yeah.
So the other questions, thanks Austin for the very thorough presentation. So at the transition where it's, going from that sample area into the roadway, so is that, is the intent here, since you talked about the curb, that the extension of the rail trail would be at the roadway grade as opposed to the actual current grade of the rail trail, so to speak?
No, the CRT is expected to be elevated from the roadway.
Oh, so it is expected to be elevated. So there'd be two elevations, one to the CRT and another one off of the CRT? Because you mentioned a curb and a fence on the side of the lagoon, right?
Yeah, so you would essentially have three different levels. You would have the roadway grade, you would have the elevated
Right.
CRT grade, and then perhaps a 6 to 12-inch vertical curb at the eastern extent.
Okay, excellent. And then, this might seem a little bit picky, but if you look at the roadway, kind of hard to tell on the screen right now unless you zoom in. But just to the north of Ocean Street, you see all of the measurements of the different widths of the different aspects to the design. The one thing that sticks out is that the southbound travel lane at that point is 19 feet and listed, and then the bike lane's only 5 feet, whereas the bike lane on the other side is 5.5 feet. It seems like at the very least we should be increasing the size of the bike lane since we have 19 feet of travel lane at that point, to at least match the 5.5 feet on the other side. But I was also curious if, I don't know if we've done a traffic study or if we know how many people might currently be turning left from Ocean Street onto 101, but given all of that width there, is there an opportunity to potentially create a short pocket lane for people turning left to go, from Ocean onto northbound 101 as a holding place? I don't know if that's a potential option, but it's just something that occurred to me. But I don't know how common it is for that left turn, because it can obviously always go down to the signal at Solana Vista as well, which would be much safer.
Isn't that where the bollards are? You can't turn left?
Yeah, maybe there are bollards there.
Yeah, there are
See 'em on
bollards.
You can't turn
screen shot.
left, yeah.
That's even better if they just can't turn left.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, and then can you talk a little bit about, what it looks like we're gonna be doing some improvements at Solana Vista on the west side as well, and I'm not objecting to it, but I wasn't expecting it, and what kind of drives that?
Yeah, so when we were doing our research for the CRT extension and as part of ADA compliance and PROAG compliance, which is the public right-of-way accessibility guidelines, there was a realization that the pedestrian push button on the southeast side of Solana Vista at Highway 101 needed to be relocated to be within the 5-foot threshold from the ramp. So that really facilitated touching that southeast ramp, in which kind it made sense to provide directional ramps, which has kind of been the customary standard for the city, and the Solana Vista Drive at Highway 101, so that making a right heading southbound on 101 out of Solana Vista is a great opportunity to kind of protect the commercial driveway that's immediately to the south, give them a little bit more line of sight, and provide directional curb ramps simultaneously with continental crosswalks.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's makes sense. I think those are most of the questions I had for now. I like the concept. I guess one of the other questions is, what's the most recent traffic study that we have that, we're using to, do we do a traffic study for this design, or will we do one, or is it just based upon one that we have done historically?
So we will perform a formal speed study and traffic study for this corridor. The city did place one of our speed radars for the past 21 days in that location to measure average daily traffic and prevailing speeds. We did find that the ADT in the northbound direction, based on the preliminary studies, was around 3,000 vehicles per day, and in the southbound direction, around 5,600 vehicles per day. So pretty much our findings from there were that the 4-lane corridor is excessive and allows for almost a free flow condition, which is why we believe we're seeing those high prevailing speeds.
Yeah, no, that it matches with more what I expect. It's just I thought I saw some information from an Encinitas study that said at Las Olas they were seeing on the order of like 9,000 per day northbound, and so is that just all coming from Cardiff State Beach? It could be, I suppose. Just seems like a weird dichotomy, but that what you're saying matches more what my observations are, is that level of traffic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that maybe a capacity reference? The ADT is a 9,000 on that collector?
As far as what the capacity of the
What
street is,
maybe
or what Encinitas
Encinitas?
had?
Yeah, what is the capacity for the street?
For the street,
You
for
had
4
to-
lanes, you're usually, and Ross can correct me if I'm wrong, it's usually 20 to 25,000.
All right, so much higher.
Okay.
Can you
This
go
is
back
what I
to,
was foreseeing.
sorry, I spoke over you, Dave.
What did you say?
That's okay, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. All right.
Could you please go to the last slide with those couple
course.
items that I know you could use some input on. So with respect to the public amenities, we know maybe improvements to the bench at the southern end where the continuation is. What about bollards? Would you like to see bollard installation
You mean for
along-
the lighting?
Yes, for the continuation of the CRT, similar to what we have.
Oh,
It will take up some of the space in the, what would be the shoulder area, that 2-foot wide shoulder area. But it would be able to, and we would do something consistent. Is that something that you're?
I mean, my anticipation is that it just continues with what rail trail looks like now, with all of the lighting and the plant palette and all, which I know a few of us are going to be walking the rail trail later on, because there are some plants that are not looking so great and some plants that we don't know where they came from.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we'll be doing that, and maybe we can add some notes to that for the next presentation.
Yeah, and I think with respect to the fencing, having some input from all of you on what your preference is for materials of that fencing along the eastern side. We will need to put something in there that protects the vegetation that is off-site in the Harbaugh trails. That's mitigation from the trail system, but also it protects people as they walk, so they don't step off quickly without noticing, and there's some grade differential in some of those areas. So this a split rail or a wire,
Cable and rail.
a cable and rail, or
Cable and rail would be
Yeah.
more attractive.
Yeah, and I think, Encinitas did on their coastal rail trail on Vulcan.
San Leo.
They've got, I think, cable and rail. Is that right? Post and cable, post and cable?
This is the elevated from Highway 101 as Vulcan goes up above the grade.
Yeah.
believe so. It's
So
the-
between Manchester? No, Birmingham?
Chesterfield is
Chesterfield,
where we
thank you.
turn, and then
Yeah,
there's
Chesterfield
and there's
to-
Birmingham, and
yeah,
then
so if you go along north on Vulcan, I know there was a special fence that they chose. It looks good, and I think it's protective, and considering we're trying to integrate our two cities, I think that would be a nod to what they've done.
yeah, good idea.
yeah, Austin, if you want to put that on our list for the next time we meet with Encinitas.
Yes.
Councilmember Becker, you're up, so I don't want to forget.
Oh, I
Any
just wanted
comments?
to ask about signage. Were you where you were proposing to put a sign that at this point, until we get a crossing, where that says something about pedestrian crossing is back at Solana Vista?
Yeah, so if we did not move forward with the crossing project in coordination with the city of Encinitas, we would provide signage up at Solana Vista for beach access to utilize that route, and that the CRT would be strictly for east side.
That'll at least help from those folks coming from the south. It's those coming from Harbaugh Seaside Trails, but at least we're cutting a percentage off, right?
Yes, and we could put some signage also at the terminus of the trail right now where the rope fences that Encinitas has erected, so right when you get into our jurisdiction. That directs people up to the signalized intersection if they are taking a very circuitous route, trying to get some steps in.
We should put in, it'll add X number of steps to your day.
Oh, I kind of like
Yeah.
that.
that'd be
I think
good.
it's important to put that sign up because we don't know when the crossing is going to come.
That's probably something we can look in.
Through the mayor, I will note that at the current location in Harbaugh Seaside Trails, there is a sign telling people to go to Solana Vista. It is totally ignored. So it's helpful from an education perspective, but nobody pays attention to it. If we can catch them going northbound before they get that far back at Solana Vista, I suppose that could help, but I also don't think many people look at the signs unless they're really big.
Yeah, and we'll have to do it at the end of the ramp coming down from the bridge as well, because I think
Right.
that to redirect people back just to that light. There was a question, Austin, if you can go back to the image of that Chen Ryan has prepared for us. Thank you, Ross. It's been great to work with you and the whole team. At the transition, at the southern end of the CRT extension, it shows a little bit of green there. Is the intention to put some landscaping similar to what we have south of that area into that green shading, or is that just reflective of
What's there?
So the use there is kind of up for interpretation. We would like to provide a driveway corridor as the ops guys goes through there to maintain, and Sedgwick goes through there to maintain the pump station to the north. So that'll serve as a vehicle thoroughfare. You can kind of see the trail as it extends to the east around here, but we can utilize the buffer space on each side and the parkway space certainly for landscaping.
And that is also an access to NCTD. For
Correct.
NCTD as well. So we'll have to keep, if we put any sort of planting in there, it'd have to be very low around the edge and maintaining a DG all-weather access for vehicles to go over, right?
Correct.
Okay. So that might be something to clarify on the next version of this instead of having it green. I know that came up.
So back to those considerations, what was that last slide, please?
Yeah.
Make sure we covered everything. So road diet consideration, we don't have a choice.
We do not. And, you know, it was interesting in the work that the engineering team did, and we really started from zero. So the staff, the previous city engineer, Encinitas staff had worked in concert with a consultant to get to the design that Encinitas submitted for their grants that we had presented previously to council. And we really took that back to square one and asked Ross to please, you know, look at this, see what is the best path, and there are some clear design constraints with the right-of-way. Maybe you want to speak a little bit about that, that we have to design around one particular point. Can I turn it over to you to share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council, Ms. Mudo. So the right-of-way on the east side of 101 as it goes along the Harbaugh property does not parallel the roadway. There is an inflection point where the right-of-way severely narrows, which limits our ability to have designed in a concept level the coastal rail trail outside of the current roadway without impacting the habitat that was put in as mitigation, as was previously mentioned. So that is where we developed the concept to look at exploring the road diet for the northbound travel lanes in order to essentially replace that existing outside easternmost lane with the rail trail itself.
Yeah, thank you. And so if you look at the area near Ocean Street, it's quite wide, as Councilmember Zito mentioned. The first lane is 19 feet wide, but that's a unique point in that corridor, and we have to plan for the most constrained. And so at this point,
We can't just move the median kind of, so we can cut the difference and then have to continue with 2 in each lane?
Further to the north and where the 19 feet develops, the concept already contemplates narrowing the southbound lanes to each 10.5 feet as well. So it does open up to be much wider in the southbound direction at Ocean Street. And we would love to explore in concert with Austin and his team some other ways to use that space that are more advantageous for active transportation. And we can develop that further with the next concept as well.
Okay, that'd be good.
But I think at the end of the day, 3 lanes is really the extent of what vehicular lanes, is what we can fit. It's we like to, it's a 5-gallon bucket, and we've got 10 gallons of uses to put in there and accommodate. And we want to be really thoughtful. The team did some survey work to determine what is available. If you recall, the plan from a couple years ago did have a lane reduction on both northbound and southbound, and I think that was a product of seeking to have a similar crossing to what you see along the 101 in Solana Beach, with just the rapid flashing beacon, a simple call button with the lower level lighting. That's what we can do further down because the speeds are lower. We already have cars that have on-street parking that slow down vehicles, and some other crossings and lights. So traffic, and am I correct in how I've asserted the southern areas are a little bit different.
They're certainly more urban than this area. As Austin mentioned, the speeds are prevailingly very high for this proposed crossing location, primarily because of the free flow condition, the lower ADT, the lack of friction, if you will, from the urban environment that is included here further to the south. And so all of those considerations have led to higher speeds and therefore warranted for additional improvements to improve pedestrian and bicycle safety.
So would adding medians further to the north help slow it traffic down before coming into Solana Beach? Just an idea to throw out there for something that we don't have any decision making on?
They certainly could. Traffic calming is a wide toolbox that works best when improvements are planned in conjunction and can compound the effects of a system rather than a single installation. But absolutely, raised medians are 100% a proven traffic calming mechanism. To note, sorry for going back to one of my responses previously, the concept also involves narrowing the painted median within the Solana Beach segment as well as reducing those southbound lanes. So we're trying to squeeze every inch we can out of the roadway to fit the coastal rail trail in.
And so I think what we have given direction to in the past is that it would be ideal to have the Z crossing, as we call it, because we don't want overhead structures blocking the view to the north that so many in our community and in the Cardiff community have worked so hard to preserve. And so would medians further north with keeping all 4 lanes ever work to slow down the traffic and then allow us to have a Z crossing there?
Well,
Again, I know we don't have the decision making, but just an idea for further communication with our neighbors.
Certainly. In conjunction, I would say, with some other mechanisms, most notably would be the number of travel lanes.
Oh, well, I said 4. So yeah, so you're saying no. Okay. Okay, so you couldn't have a total of 4 lanes, 2 in each direction, medians to narrow those lanes and slow down the traffic before it got to this area that would allow for a safe Z crossing there? Is that at all possible?
I think that would have to be looked at further by both
Completely
agencies.
agree. I believe additional study would be required.
Can that be, I mean, is that reasonable to?
We can
ask?
review our side of the
Yeah.
line.
But when you're discussing it with our neighbors, perhaps that
absolutely,
might
yeah.
be something that they would be more open to.
I think that's another idea to keep looking and exploring opportunities and options. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Mayor,
Yes.
again, thanks.
Councilmember Zito.
Yeah, so I mean, relative to the part related to this conversation, I guess another question back to Austin or perhaps the consultant is, you know, I see a label on there that says merge taper as design speed equals 40 miles per hour, and that's very clearly given the assumption that the current road configuration has at least a design speed of 40 miles per hour. But with this lane tapering that we're doing, does that still hold up? Are we still saying that we're expecting a design speed of 40 miles per hour if we taper down the lane and actually eliminate 1 lane on the northbound direction?
Ross is looking at Austin. Austin's looking at his
I can
computer.
answer, or up to you. Austin and I haven't had a chance to really dive into the current speed study that's been done to date. I would preface that it is extremely preliminary at this point. An additional study and an official speed survey should be done in the future. The current data shows that the 85th percentile is 44 miles per hour, meaning that the merge taper would be designed at 45 rather than 40.
My question was, if the merge taper happens, wouldn't that cause the median speed to be much lower?
The reduction of the lane would be the traffic
Or
calming
lane
mechanism.
reduction coming up and slow down, correct?
I'm sorry, I cut you off, council member.
Say that again,
Oh,
Dave.
sorry. So people will see a lane reduction coming up and slow down. That's usually how this works, isn't that correct?
That is a natural behavior. However, the MUTCD would require us to design based on the 85th percentile on that condition.
prior to the
Let
construction.
me take a step
That's
back.
crazy.
Let's pretend this road didn't exist and this was the design we were proposing. How would you choose a design speed?
That's a good way to do it.
So in the absence of having a speed study, again, we have a preliminary value, not an official speed study. In the absence of a speed study, the typical engineering judgment is 5 miles per hour greater than the posted speed limit, which is where the 40 miles per hour design speed was derived from for the concept plan.
Okay, thanks. I'm just taking this back to, I really appreciated one of the opening comments that was made by Austin, the city engineer, which was the fact that, people tend to drive what the roadway is encouraging them to drive. And I think, my personal experience, and I think a lot of people realize that there are people going pretty fast through this section of 101. That's because it's a wide road. It's going downhill to what looks like a wide open space at Cardiff State Beach. And, while this is a really painful thing to contemplate in a lot of ways, we do know we have a lot of people crossing at the border of our city right now. And the thing that we can do the most to make that safer is to slow people down. And this is to Austin's point, making it look a little bit busier, the lane's a little bit narrower. This lane reduction will cause people to slow down, which by default is the best thing we can do to make that place overall safer for all modes of transportation. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thanks.
And
Thank you.
And Mayor, before we leave this topic, I want to emphasize that the work that the team is doing is to allow us to continue to move forward with our project, irrespective of what happens to the north. So how this has been designed presently allows for every mode to get to the jurisdictional boundary and continue on. So whether you're a vehicle, you continue on, it opens back up to 2 lanes. If you were on a bike, you'd continue in the bike infrastructure that's up in Encinitas. If you are a pedestrian, then you would come off right short of our jurisdictional boundary. There's actually an open part of the trail that connects to the right-of-way. We would make a transition so pedestrians would peel off and either continue eastward on the trail system of the Nature Collective or come back up to Solana Beach. So we can move this forward and we will continue to move it forward. But we're really hoping that as we move this forward, we can find solutions. And to Dave's point, maybe as we implement this, we see driver behavior change over time and other options come up on the table as well. So I'm very optimistic that we can realize a compromise solution with Encinitas in the future.
I hope so too. Councilmember Edson, you had some comments?
Yes. So if we look at this and we know Solana Vista is where we start narrowing right here, I think there's been some discussion of having a signal, perhaps flashing beacon back here that alerts people if we might be able to do a flashing beacon further up.
Yeah, so if we did have a crossing, we would have advanced warning signs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they would be at Solana Vista?
They would be placed strategically upstream of the crossings, reflective of the speeds.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, thank you. All right. Do you have the direction you need? Is there anything we left out?
All right. Through the mayor, one last comment. Can I make?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to note, relative to the thing that was being discussed earlier about the lighting and the bollards and such, I agree entirely with what the rest of the council, the mayor was saying about let's keep as much of the existing rail trail theme going that we can. I just wanted to add also that one of my other overriding considerations, though, is just to make sure it continues to be a truly functional multi-use path, meaning that if adding obstacles into the path at certain locations causes it to be a problem for both, different kind of uses like slow cyclists and pedestrians, then we need to be careful about where we're putting those types of things. That's all. Thanks.
Good.
Maybe there's something we can look into where lighting is integrated into a post.
Yeah, and I was going to mention that we can, when we start placing those or identifying those, there's photometric evaluations we can do to make sure there's proper foot candles for pedestrians and bikes and such that there's a clear path with buffer space for access.
Great. Okay. All right. Good discussion. Thank you. So that concludes our agenda items. So we are now on to work plan comments. Work plan was in our consent calendar. Remember to take that home with you. No work plan comments. Any compensation and reimbursement disclosures? No. Any council commission reports? We'll start with you, Councilmember Zito, if you have any.
I don't have anything I need to report tonight, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? I just have one that's from Sandag, and that is that we had our ACFR, our annual comprehensive, what's it called, audit. I always forget what it stands for, but it's a major audit that the independent, that a third-party auditor does. And sooner than we thought at Sandag, we are now in an unqualified position. So that was great progress that was made in our organization to add more processes, procedures, and so forth to be accountable to the public on our financial situation. So that was very good news for Sandag. Councilmember Becker, you remembered something?
I did remember. Last Thursday, the city manager and I traveled up to the San Onofre power plant to take a tour of that, which was really interesting, a very long tour, and saw the decommissioning. A lot of the buildings are gone now, which is good news, but just the depressing news is there's just no state ready to take our the spent fuel. So it sits there. There's some vertically and some horizontally. So it's there for the duration.
And the 2 round domes are coming down.
They will. They've inside. They're incrementally taking things down, and so that'll be a nice change.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I thought it was very interesting. All of the equipment from the generation of power at that site is gone. So the turbines are gone, the wiring's gone, all the equipment, all the office buildings are all removed. Much of it has been repurposed because those were kind of the clean parts of the operation. And so if there's ever any concern about what might happen at that site in the near term, there is no ability right now to turn it back on, I guess is the way to say it. And it was very interesting, and I believe that tour is generally available for the public to reach out to SoCal Edison to inquire about it.
You wear protective clothing.
We had some vests on, and we have some photos if you'd like some to frame. Deborah Shade was on that tour as well, so it's nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Give you a little clip-on thing that shows
Registers.
Yeah, if all of a sudden there's radiation.
You guys didn't get that? Oh boy.
When I was there, it was not as decommissioned as it is today because I toured in 2017, so that was a long time ago. It was actually shortly after they caught that thing they dropped and saved it. So
they didn't talk about that.
No, that was very scary. I had to say.
Deputy Mayor McDonald.
So I'm curious if everything's going to disappear and we find a place to transfer the canisters to, will new infrastructure have to be built for that?
They didn't talk about the future of that property. There is, and I don't know where they end with the decommissioning. So do they need to take down the seawall? Do they need to take out the underwater infrastructure that's still out there? So I think there's more to be determined. It's such a long burn of 2063. I think they have until to decommission fully. So it's a very 2063. Wow. Yes, that's how long decommissioning. It was 60 years that they had, and that was from 2003.
Guess we won't be around.
No, we won't see that. Okay, all right. Well, good night, everyone. This meeting is adjourned until next week, July 1st. Good night.